What we're going to be doing is putting text on a path. Anytime you want your text to maybe flow around an object, or you want your text to go in a different direction, you have to put it on a path. And the easiest path to create is a straight line. And to create a straight line, the tool that works best is the pen tool. You have to look at your options, make sure that it says path. And if we want to start our text down here, kind of type sideways and have it go up, where we have to click with the pen is where you want your text to start. So I'm going to click here, and I'm going to press Shift, and I'm going to click way at the top. And that's going to give me a nice straight line. Then I'm going to activate the horizontal type tool, and I'm going to align it to the path. And you see how when it aligns to the path, you get kind of a curved line? Okay, that tells you it's aligned. Now, it's very important if you're working on a path that you've got left alignment on. Okay, if it's centered or something else, it's not going to work properly. So I'm going to click here, and then I'm going to change the settings. I'm going to change the color to white, or something close to white. And I'm going to adjust my font. And I don't really care what your font, what font you pick. It is a good idea when you are trying to align to a path to start with fairly small. 48 is going to be too big. I'm going to start at 12 because it's always a lot easier to increase the size than to decrease the size. Okay, so I started at 12. I had to press Enter to get my insertion mark back. But what I'm going to type is Jonathan Livingston Seagull. Okay, and I can make this quite a bit bigger, so I'm going to drag down, and I'm going to bump up the size. And I think 48 is going to be too big. Now, if you wanted to make the size bigger and the next step up is too big, you can actually do a custom size. So I can type 42 in. I might be able to squeeze 44 out of there. You know, and how big you can make this totally depends on the font. You know, you might get to 36 and your text is filling the space already. Okay, so that's why it's a good idea to start at 12. And then, you know, with the text highlighted, you just keep increasing in increments until you fill up your line. And then I'm going to press Control and Enter. So we've got our text on a path. And we'll go ahead and add a bevel and emboss to that. And I'm just going to stick with the defaults. And what we're going to do next, we are going to draw a path around the top of the bird, of the seagull, kind of an outline of the top. And the pen tool does not work really well for that, but the freeform pen does. And with the freeform pen, kind of start here. You always start where you want the text to start, and want to make sure it says path on your options. But you're just going to kind of do the little outline here. And I lost it. Let's see. Let's go into paths. We're still on that other path layer. Why don't we click up here on work path, go back to layers, and let's go down here to layer 1. Let's try it again. Just do a nice smooth path here. And you can see that we've got little dots. Those are called anchors. And then the lines in between are the actual paths. And with this tool, the only downside is that sometimes you get too many. If you want to adjust the location of the anchors, you can use the white arrow. It's called a direct selection tool, and it actually lets you select specific anchors, and you can left drag and move them. Now you might think, well, what's that little line coming off here? If you're dealing with a curve, this is a Bezier handle, and you can drag the handle and adjust the curve. Now, if you are creating something for text like we are, any kind of points are not ideal. Okay, so if it comes to a point like a mountain, that is really hard to align text on. Okay, so you might want to see if I had something like that, probably not the best for text. And you can actually left drag those anchors. Okay, and you can adjust the handles, and that adjusts your curve. And if you think that these are difficult to work with, they are a little difficult to work with at first. Okay, but you definitely want to adjust this line before you put text on it. Because if you try to adjust it after you have text on it, what happens sometimes is your letters end up upside down. Probably not the look you were going for. Another thing that you can do, if you notice that there's just too many anchors, if you hold the pen, you'll see that there is a delete anchor point tool. You can turn that on, and you can point to any of the anchors and click, and it will get rid of them. Then if you kind of went a little click happy, maybe you got rid of too many, you'll see there's an add anchor point tool that lets you actually put more anchors in there. Okay, so you can add them, you can remove them, you can move them around. Eventually, you shouldn't be happy with your line, or hopefully you don't dislike your line terribly. And at that point, you're going to activate your type tool. Make sure your text is small, because we're going to do a phrase. And then you're going to align to the left and click. And then we're going to key in the phrase. And if we have room, then we'll make our text bigger. And the phrase is seagulls, comma, as you know, comma, never falter, comma, never fade. And I have lots of room. And you'll see what I mean about, like, this is not a very strong peak, but you can even see what happens with the text as it's going over that subtle little bump. Now, if you don't like how that looks, you certainly can click, in front of the letter and put an extra space in there. That is not a problem. Let's see what happened with my N. Now I don't like that. Okay, and once you are happy with how it looks, or you don't dislike it terribly, press Control and Enter. And like I said, you can, adjust those anchors after the fact, but you do run the risk of having a letter go upside down. And that is certainly less than ideal. Okay, so if you were going to adjust after the text was on here, you would have to be really, really careful. I'm going to press Control and D and get rid of my ants. Okay, once you've got the text on both paths, you're going to save your changes, and then you can close the file. We are going to be working more with paths in upcoming weeks, so you are going to become a little more familiar with them. We don't do a whole lot in this class. They are primarily used in vector images, and so we get a little bit into them in this class. The Illustrator class, Digital Communications, works with them quite a bit more. If you wanted to adjust the opacity in some of your text layers, go ahead. Totally up to you. Okay, and then you can save your changes.